Everybody sing that shit.
So if you've ever searched the App Store on your phone, then you've probably come across, or if you're looking for relaxation, meditation, mindfulness, you've probably come across this gentleman here, Mr. Andrew Johnson, very well known in the industry. Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast.
Hey, Billy, thanks for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
I actually jumped on your live meditation on your Facebook page this morning. Very handy.
Right.
I'm feeling pretty chill for this one.
Good. Well, I thought I'd better start getting onto video again. I used to do them years ago, but and I've got a good, nice audience on Facebook, and yeah, it was good. It was good to go out and just be a bit more authentic.
What kind of a difference has social media had on like the amount of people that you can reach? I guess early days when you first started out doing this, it was mainly one-to-one, was it, or classes like workshops?
Yeah, I did a ton of one-to-ones. I started training to become a hypnotherapist 94, 95, so I'm 25 years in the business.
Yeah.
And I did probably 17 or 18 years of seeing clients. But I always had recordings. You know, when you see someone, for example, stopping smoking, you give them a recording and off they go. I started off on cassettes.
I remember them well.
Oh, yeah. And then CDs and then MP3s. And it was always a little side project to sell recordings on websites. But when we get into the App Store in 2009, we were really early in the App Store. And that really changed everything. And, of course, then people started reaching out on social media. And I've built a nice platform. When you do hypnotherapy and you do a one-to-one session, of course, it's completely confidential.
Yeah.
You don't have any relationship with the person after the session unless they contact you. So it has been really nice getting feedback from people over the years who are using, you know, a $3 app to fall asleep or to stop smoking or to reduce their anxiety. Yeah. It's been lovely having that connection.
What sort of feedback do you get with regards to anxiety? Because I hear a lot of times, like people, or it seems to me, anxiety coaches, people like that, they have this one-track mind. It's like, this is the only way to relieve your anxiety, I guess. And people kind of rubbish hypnotherapy a lot. Like, I hear that a lot. So, like, what's your thoughts? What kind of feedback do you get from people that are struggling with anxiety?
Well, I think you've got to tackle things like this from a couple of different angles. I mean, if I'm talking purely about the recordings, I will always advise people, if they don't sleep, to start sleeping better and go down the deep sleep route. And if you can build up a better sleeping pattern, first of all, things always seem a bit better.
Yeah.
Would you not agree with that? I think it's a bit better. And we live in a society at the moment where 50 to 60% of people at any one point have some issue with falling asleep.
I'm one of them.
And that knocks everything into, you know, a little bit more tense and anxious the next day. I understand completely that one session of hypnotherapy may not be suitable for a lot of people with ongoing anxiety issues because, well, and I don't mean to, I use this word in a different, how can I put this?
Go on.
So much of what happens when people have anxiety, and agree with me or not, but so much it becomes habitual inbuilt behaviour.
Yeah, definitely.
And that behaviour is really difficult to stop on your own. It becomes a pattern, it becomes the norm. Then we think we can't do anything about it. And I think that's why perhaps the recordings are better, because it gives people, if you can find the right recording for you, it gives you that daily practice. Because you've got to tackle the two angles of anxiety. You've got to tackle the physicality of it, and you've got to tackle the thoughts about it, and both of them feed each other.
I think one thing that I liked about your website, and we'll talk about that later, is the fact
Yeah.
that you don't promote this stuff as like the big fix. It's not the cure. Like, these are tools.
No,
You're promoting these as tools, which is refreshing.
absolutely.
It's refreshing to
Yeah,
see.
self-help tools.
Yeah, because a lot of people like it. It's my way or the highway. That's what you tend to come across.
Yeah, I think for an awful lot of people, I did a really good hypnotherapy training, and it was broader than just hypnotherapy. We did NLP and some other tools,
Mm-hmm.
and you never talk about cures, and you never talk about anything. And there are some amazing things that can happen with hypnotherapy, but in the majority of cases, what we're dealing with hypnotherapy is things like phobic reactions, where there's a specific one-off cause that started people having a phobia.
Yeah.
Or an addiction like smoking or food or any of those things. General low-level or high-level ongoing anxiety is something that you need to retrain your body in. And there are a variety of ways to do it, but you need to find the right one for you.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a quick fix, but there are fixes. It's just that sometimes one technique doesn't work for, one technique works for one person, but it doesn't work for the other.
Yeah. There's no one size fits all, is there? I've said
No,
that
there's
many
not.
times. Yeah.
No,
So
completely.
when did your fascination with this mind stuff, the meditation, the hypnosis, when did that all start for you? Was it because of your own anxiety issues, or was it just something that you found yourself going down?
Well, strangely, so in the mid-70s, there was this sort of upsurge in people wanting to learn about martial arts, probably because of the Bruce Lee films. And there used to be a television program called Kung Fu with David Carradine in it, and it was hugely popular.
Yeah.
In the days when there was only 3 channels. And I went along with some school friends to a karate class, and maybe for, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks, that's all. And but at the end of the class, when we'd been beating the crap out of one another, at the end of the class, the teacher took us through a little guided meditation, and I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking during that, gosh, this is nice. I like this. I remember my friends giggling at it, but I remember thinking, there's something to this. And I sort of followed that up by doing 2 things. I did meditation for many years, but without any further training. I just sat and followed my breath. That was it. It was as simple as that. I didn't know if I was doing it right, didn't know if I was doing it wrong, but I felt that it was giving me something. I had always been interested in the power of the mind, so I had always read, in the following years, going through a variety of jobs, I had read plenty of these positive mental attitude books. Think and Grow Rich, and How to Win Friends and Influence People, and a ton of these older books. And I knew there was something I wanted to do, but I didn't know what. And the early 90s, I went for a session of hypnotherapy with someone I had just met in where I was working. She had just qualified as a hypnotherapist, and it just blew my mind. It was something I'd never experienced before. And so I started researching it, and I found a good place to train, and I trained in 94 into 95, and I started working straight away and started seeing clients. And it was a real transformation for me. I'd been going through a difficult time 2 years previous to that. So I think for anything that people have a real desire to do and a love of doing, they've found something that has helped them.
Yeah.
And it did with me, and then I started working with clients, and I've loved it ever since, even though the business has transformed.
So do you meditate daily now?
I do, but I don't have a strict meditation practice.
Yeah.
So I don't sit for an hour and do it, or 10 minutes or whatever. But I do sit, eyes closed, and it just seems to happen naturally now. But I think that if that makes sense, it's not something that I set time aside for. It's just, there are times Like, for example, I did that Facebook Live today, and as soon as I switched off from it and answered some questions, I thought, okay, I need to calm things down a bit.
Yeah.
So I sat for 10 minutes and let it settle.
Yeah.
And I probably will after this too.
Yeah. So because I talk to a lot of people and they struggle to meditate, like they don't understand what they need to do or how do we do it. So is there any like simple tips, or can you simplify the process of meditation?
Well, you see, there are a ton of different meditation techniques.
At
its core, it's about sitting, preferably eyes closed, preferably comfortable, and with your eyes closed, just following your breathing and noticing what comes up. Now, for most of us, in this world that we live in, where we're constantly bombarded with information and technology overload, as soon as we stop being entertained, our mind starts going, and that's why a lot of people have difficulty meditating. The secret is that many people will sit and their minds will think about other things, and they think, oh, I can't meditate because my mind's thinking of these things. But the mind is always thinking of these things. So the secret with meditation in its simplest form is just to notice what the mind is thinking of and let it go.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's easier said than done, but with practice and allowing it to happen, the thoughts, you start to see the repetitive patterns of your thoughts. You start to witness them and notice that we're spending a lot of time thinking about what happened yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow, and less time in actually what's happening right here and now. And if your mind gets taken away in a little journey, you just bring it back to the breathing. Now, I make a joke of this, of course, because people will say, can you teach me meditation? And I'll say, sure, sit down, close your eyes, follow your breathing. That'll be £100, please.
Yeah.
So it is a bit more in depth than that. But I think one of the problems that an awful lot of people have with meditation is that it's very similar to yoga in many ways, that we look at it and we think, oh, I think that would be good for me. I think meditation or maybe yoga would be good for me. And then we look at people sitting in a lotus position on a rock in Hawaii, and we think, I can't do that. I can't do that. Or you look at some yoga thing and you see people bending over backwards with one leg in the air, and you think, I can't tie my own shoelaces at the moment, so that's not for me. In actual fact, meditation and basic yoga, and they're so linked, they're so interlinked. Meditation is really, really simple to use. And once you get into the habit of putting a little time aside and sitting eyes closed, you can almost do it anywhere at any point. And that, I think, is the real secret, to be able to do it when you need to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that.
The other thing is that there are really no rules about it apart from not trying too hard. So you don't have to sit in a lotus position. You don't have to lie down. You can do anything you want. It's just about quieting the mind or allowing it to quieten over time.
Similar to mindfulness, I guess.
Sorry?
It's similar to mindfulness, isn't it? I mean, they're so closely related.
Yeah, mindfulness is a part of meditation. And mindfulness is about, well, it's probably the same as I've just described. It's about noticing where you are at the moment and being in the moment. So when you're drinking coffee, you're drinking coffee. And when you're talking to someone, you're actually there with them rather than thinking about what you're going to be doing next. And when you're eating, you're actually eating and enjoying the process. So much of us miss parts of life because we're away thinking, we want to be somewhere else. Where are we going next? How are we going to get there? What's going to happen next week? And we forget actually to be here and enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yeah. So if you can find a class that you feel comfortable in, maybe not at the moment when we're all distancing ourselves,
good point.
or you can find relaxation audios, and there are tons of them now, that sort of appeal to you and they don't take you down into it too fast, then it's a process of just doing it for long enough until you see little benefits.
I suppose, yeah, until you end up where you're at, where you don't need to set that specific time. You can just, I guess you can just kind of switch in and out of it.
Yeah.
You're at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't, see, the thing is that it's just a part of us. It's like when I teach people to relax, which I do a lot, because I think that when you teach people relaxation techniques, they then find it easier to meditate.
Yeah.
Because most of us don't realize how much tension we're holding in our body. And we don't realize that for most of us, we can actually do something about it. Over time, we can retrain the body in relaxation response. And some people take a little time and some people take a lot of time, but ultimately we are all able to do it to one degree or another.
Mm.
But people, I see people going through a process of being stressed or anxious and then regaining the skills of how to get down into relaxation. But in many cases, they don't realize how far they've come because it just feels natural.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You're not turning into a different person. You're turning into the person you were when you could relax.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels natural. There's a thing that stops most of us meditating and sleeping and relaxing and bringing things back into memory, and it's called the law of reversed effect.
Okay.
Now, so most things that we learn in life, learning to walk and talk and learning how to ride a bike and learning how to build websites and learning how to speak French and learning how to drive a car, they all take focus and determination and concentration and motivation and repetition. And that's the way we learn. That's the way we learn just about everything. However, there are a few things in life that the more you try to do it consciously, the less it happens. And this is the law of reversed effect. And this comes into play with deep sleep or sleeping, for example.
Mm.
Anyone who's struggled to sleep knows that the harder they try to fall asleep, the more awake they become.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly the same with relaxation. You can't make yourself do it. Exactly the same with memory. So you come in, you put your glasses or your keys down somewhere. 2 hours later, you try and find your car keys and you can't bloody remember where you left them.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you do, you start getting stressed. You've got to go and have an appointment. Where are my bloody car keys? Where are they? Where are they? And you can't see them because you're so stressed. And it's only when you let go of trying to remember that most times you remember where they are.
Yeah.
And this is the same with intuition and creativity. You can't make it happen. And so one of the lessons that I teach people with meditation and relaxation and mindfulness is that if you stop trying, it actually helps. It works better.
Yeah.
So a lot of the recordings that I have are really slow and really gentle and really easy and really permissive. And that seems to work well with the majority of people. In hypnotherapy, there's a saying that we're always taught to remember. Every response is a valid response. And what that means is that if I say to people, when you are relaxed and meditating, your mind will wander off.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't have their mind wander off. They think they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
If I say to people, your mind will definitely wander, or it will definitely wander off, and it doesn't, they think they're doing something wrong.
Right.
So the secret of success with relaxation and meditation is to say, hey, this just is how it feels. Just go with it. As long as you're not physically uncomfortable, just let it happen and notice what's happening. You can't do anything wrong. Your mind may wander or it may not. It doesn't matter. It might seem like 5 minutes when it's an hour, and it might seem like an hour when it's 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. You might feel really heavy, you might feel really light. It doesn't matter. As long as you're comfortable, just go with it. Yeah, and that, I think, allows people to really experience what it's like without too much judgment and without thinking they can't do it.
I think possibly like the expectation of what they're going to get from it is perhaps what hinders some people. Because I've had one hypnotherapy session in my time, and I didn't know what to expect, but I guess I expected naively to feel like my anxiety was going to like maybe disappear. I guess it's irrational to think that, but that's probably what I expected. If I'm paying somebody for hypnotherapy for my anxiety, my expectation was that after this session, I'm going to be great. So you need to be open-minded about what this is actually going to do.
Yeah. And do you know something, Billy? Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, there are stories. Yeah.
There's no doubt that it happens. But as I say, for most of us, if we're talking about habitual behaviour, deep-rooted habitual behaviour, then for most of us, it takes 3 to 4 weeks to break that behaviour. And it depends on the cause.
Yeah.
If there is a cause, there might not be a cause, but if there is a cause for anxiety, then, I mean, I liken it in many ways, and I've not been trivial with this, but so the story I tell about this is like a phobic reaction.
Yeah.
One of my colleagues, when I was doing my training, had a really, really severe dog phobia. She didn't like dogs. She would cross the road. She always thought it would be nice to have a dog, but she couldn't. And I guess she was in her mid-50s when we were doing her training. She really didn't like dogs. So we did a bit of regression. And she remembered being a child in a pram, and a big Alsatian had come along and licked her face.
Right.
And the mother had come out with the shop. The little kid was parked outside and had shooed the dog away. And that was it. There was no danger. There was nothing. To that child, when she was 2 or whatever age she was, and you've got an Alsatian the size of an elephant compared to you licking your face, that is trauma. And the body remembered that. Now, when we did regression, it was as if the whole thing popped. It disappeared because she then realized from an adult's point of view that the dog had not been harming her. It was just something that had happened when she was a child. And that just popped. Now, on the other hand, I had someone years and years later saying, "Can you help me with a dog phobia?" And I said, "Sure, I think I can. Let's try it." What happened? Have you ever had a bad experience with a dog? And he said, "Yeah, I've been bitten badly 4 times." Right. And I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, the point is,
that's unlucky.
No wonder you've got a phobia.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very different way of dealing with it. If your first 4 experiences of trying to pat a dog, you have been bitten badly, that's pretty damn deep.
Yeah.
And no wonder you don't want to go near dogs. So, for an awful lot of folk with anxiety, I mean, I don't know, can I ask you about yours? Is that something you share?
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of why it started?
My issue was from just a panic attack out of the blue. Like I had no idea what anxiety was, never heard of the term panic attack until the night that it happened, and then that was it.
And where were you?
I was at home. Just me and my son. He was about 3 or 4, I think.
Okay.
I was just looking after him, playing on Xbox. Room started spinning a bit. That was it.
Okay. And had anything been happening in the previous couple of weeks? Was there any changes to your life?
There was a bit of stress. There was a bit of stress leading up to it,
Okay. All right. Pretty bad stress.
Yeah, it was like girl trouble. Of course, because
I
that's all
hear
they
you.
do is cause trouble.
I'm not saying a word. I am not saying. I played the fifth on that one. And when you were sitting playing the Xbox, had that trouble all sort of resolved itself?
It was kind of, I guess it was ongoing, like nothing further had happened. I think it was the day after. Basically, I'd had my car smashed up by these thugs that this girl had sent around. And like it was the night after that, I was at home on my own with my son. And I think I remember thinking, like, what if they come again? Like, and it's just me and my lad here. It's not going to be good.
Okay. A perfectly and utterly normal thought.
Yeah.
But we are really, really powerful. And when we think that and our body reacts against it, my God, it can feel bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish a panic attack on anyone, having experienced them and worked with a ton of folk with them. And I think anyone who's never had a panic attack will never understand how it feels. There's no logic to it. It is like a phobic reaction. There is no logic to it. And no matter how logical you try to think, or however many people say, oh, just calm down, or deep breath, or something like that.
You'll be all right.
If your body is telling you that you're in danger, my God, it will overrule everything. Sometimes, however, the body, in my experience, thinking it's doing something positive for you, the mind and the body connection, will continue to do what it thinks it's doing on a positive way, giving you the adrenaline, the raised heart rate, the sharpened focus, the sweaty palms, because it's thinking it's protecting you from something.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So this doesn't make it easier to solve, but I think when I talk to a lot of people about this from an anxiety point of view, they start to recognize that maybe it was the body trying to be positive in that moment.
Yeah, it was preparing me.
Preparing you for potential danger. It's setting up that fight or flight response that you are in a physical way able to deal with what's happening, or run very quickly in the opposite direction. But either way, you're set up for it. There is also a lot of people, I don't know if this will help anyone listening to this, but there's a lot of people, when I've asked those questions, will say, I had a panic attack in Tesco's. First time ever. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. And I don't like going back into supermarkets anymore because it reminds me and I start to feel that way. And then I'll ask the question, well, what was happening in the days and the weeks before that? And some people will say, oh, I remember one girl telling me that she was studying for her lawyer's exam, the final exam, worked for 5 or 6 years to get to this point, and she had to get this. Whatever it was she was doing, she had to get it finished. And she basically did 3 weeks of cigarettes, caffeine, Red Bull, no sleep. And she did this exam unbelievably beautiful. I mean, she aced it completely. But about 3 or 4 days later, round in Tesco's, her body went, "Ah!" and let go of that 3 weeks. The problem was at that point, and I don't mean to joke about this, but it does bring out this subject beautifully. At that point, her having a panic attack, she's not able to say, oh, that's my body getting rid of all this tension.
Yeah, that's the Red
Isn't
Bull.
that wonderful? Look at me flailing about. This is a great thing for me to be doing. I'm releasing the adrenaline, the tension, the built-up anxiety and stress over the last 4 weeks. No, you have a panic attack and you think, wait a minute, was it the potatoes that did this? Was it the lighting? Is it the music? Is it the fact that I'm overheating? and then you fear having it again.
Yeah, that's the
And as soon as
cycle.
oh God, yeah. And as soon as you fear having it again, you relate it to when it happened the last time.
Mm-hmm.
And off it goes. The mind and the body are so perfectly tuned that we get into this routine of unconsciously thinking about it. Things remind us of it. Our body starts to react, and we notice our body reacting, and we start to worry about it.
Yeah, that's it.
And off it goes.
Mm.
It's a marvelous mechanism, an incredibly protective mechanism for the olden days when we were in danger all the time.
Yeah. Not so useful now.
Yeah, not so useful now.
Mm.
Well, we've got to
I guess
protect
it can
ourselves
be.
in these strange days.
Yeah. I read something on your website that you trained in EFT as well.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know anything about this, but I have heard people mock EFT. What is it? Emotional freedom technique.
The emotional freedom techniques,
Tapping.
yeah.
Can you, I'm new to this, tell me about it. What is it?
Sure. Well, as you say, it's a tapping technique developed in America by, modified from a deeper technique and a more complex technique called thought field therapy, which was, I guess, discovered by a psychologist called Roger Callahan. I think probably in the early to mid 80s.
Right. I think I've heard of that, TFT.
TFT, and it's quite a complex mechanism of tapping on meridian points. So let me give you the brief rundown about it, because I've been using it with clients and on myself for probably 20 years.
Sell it to me. Sell it to me.
I will sell it to you, Billy.
Come on.
But I will give you it for nothing. There's no cost involved. All right, so let me take this right back to the basics. If you think about acupuncture, for example, acupuncture has been around about 5,000 years, obviously from the East, well researched, and it has now become, I don't think it's even an alternative for a complementary therapy. I think it's pretty mainstream. I think 30 years ago, the thought of going to someone and having little needles inserted in meridian points would have been poo-pooed, but it's now pretty well accepted. I know doctors and nurses that will practice acupuncture. And in a previous life for me, one of my best friends was a vet, and she would do acupuncture on the dogs.
Okay.
And having seen the result of that over a period of time, you realise, well, that takes away the possibility that it could be placebo.
Yeah.
So acupuncture works by changing the flow of energy that passes down the central nervous system. And there are meridian points that have been mapped over centuries by the Chinese and in India as well. And those meridian points don't necessarily bear a resemblance to where the issue is. For example, I had acupuncture years and years ago for pains in my knees, but I was getting needles stuck in here and there and one or two in my knees. And I found it beneficial. It was really good. So what happens when we have a traumatic experience is that, as we've just discussed, and again, I'll liken it to a phobia, because I think most folk recognise what a phobic reaction feels like.
Yeah.
We have a thought about something, for example, a spider. We think we see one. Someone talks to us about one, or we actually really see one. And if we have a phobia of a spider, the mind recognises it as danger. It sets off a chain of electrical impulses down the central nervous system, down the meridian lines, and it gives us what we feel as fear or panic or anxiety or whatever it is, whatever the words are for how you feel. Now, traditionally, you would tackle this by tackling the thought process or tackle the physical manifestation of that thought process. So in hypnotherapy, for example, you would take someone into trance, which is just our word for meditation.
Yeah.
And you would ask them to recall the spider. And as their body started to react, you would train the body to relax. And what you're doing over time is just reinforcing a new reaction to it. You're just teaching the body that, excuse me, you're teaching the body to respond in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be quick. Excuse me a second, Billy. Or you tackle the thought. So the thought would have been like that example I had of my colleague, where we did a little bit of gentle regression, and they remembered that it was an Alsatian that licked them, that there was nothing really to fear from that point. And at that point, the brain just changed and stopped passing on that information. That's quite a rare occurrence, but it's an example of how the brain can change things. But in the midground, there is, when you think of the spider and the body reacts, there is this change in the energy flow that gives us the feeling. And that's what acupuncture does. It gets, the acupuncturist, the skilled acupuncturist will know where to put the needles to disrupt the flow, to rebalance it. What EFT does is that instead of using needles, it's a tapping procedure on those meridian points. So when someone thinks of the spider, if they don't know the technique, I will do the tapping on these meridian points. And what it does very elegantly and very quickly is that it disrupts this midground between the thought and the body reacting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The difficulty with it is that it looks absolutely ridiculous. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. But I'll tell you what makes it really interesting for me. When someone, and it works for physical pain as well, the majority of the time, a high percentage of the time, it will notch down physical pain. If someone was to say to me, I have this issue, can hypnotherapy help? I would say yes. I think there is every possibility that we could help in one session, depending on what they're asking for. And I would say, well, we need to book a session, and it's going to be £70 for the hour, and I'll give you recordings, and you need to come on time, and you need to, and there's a whole session and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll see. We'll see over the following days and weeks what effect that session has had. And in my career, the majority of people with things like stopping smoking and confidence issues and things, it's been one session, phobias.
Okay.
With EFT, however, if someone says, do you think EFT can help? I will say, well, I don't know, let's try it. And we sort of know within 5 minutes if it's going to help, because people will have a feeling about how they feel about something, then we tap for it, and they will be able to judge if it's helped or if it's not.
Do you think it's like psychologically, whether it helps them, whether they think it's helping, or it, like, is there...
No, it's an electrochemical thing. So there is no doubt.
There's science behind it.
Well, so this is a difficult thing. It's based on acupuncture, and many people will still poo-poo acupuncture. But
True.
there is more evidence for acupuncture working, and therefore these meridian therapies working, than there is for the vast majority of complementary therapies. It can be a strange thing to experience. For example, if someone says, can EFT help me with my migraines? And I say, well, I don't know, let's try it. Do you have a migraine at the moment? And they say, well, no, I don't. Well,
come back when you have.
Come back when you have. But they would, because they've got the migraine. So nothing on earth is going to stop that. But EFT is a technique that once people have had a convincer, i.e., I have this pain in my shoulder, and I tap for it, and that pain is much reduced.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that feels good. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Once people have had a convincer like that, they can learn the technique really, really quickly.
Mm.
So it's like a self-help technique. A lot of the techniques that I use, in fact, all of the techniques that I use are meant to be passed on to give people the power to use them.
So they can, self-help tools, I guess.
It's a self-help tool.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been doing EFT for 20 years, and there'll still be things that I will go through in life. And then someone will say, did you tap for it? And I think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, God, yeah, I should have tapped for it.
Mm.
But I do it a lot. And even just for general repetitive thoughts that come up that give me a feeling that I don't want, I'll do this tapping sequence. And it just notches it down. But it's not a cycle. It's not a thought process.
Yeah,
There's no placebo to it.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Is it placebo? But
I think less than many things, because
it's with you, like you just said, the convincer. Like having that convincer the first time, that might just, like, who knows what it's doing. I guess there's no way of telling whether it is actually physiologically doing anything.
No, there are ways. Yeah, I mean, I just go with the number of people that I have used EFT with, and the number of changes that have happened.
You can go, feedback.
It's all I can go with.
Yeah,
and that's in person and online.
Mm.
And you see, the other thing with EFT is that because it happens, because if it's going to have a positive effect, it's only the person you're using it with that can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't have a positive effect, you sort of know that within 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lovely thing for people who have had chronic pain. It's a lovely thing to be able to say, okay, if this doesn't have an effect on you, there's no charge. None whatsoever. We know it in 5 or 10 minutes. If it does have an effect and you reduce the pain or eliminate it, you will learn the technique yourself. Mm-hmm. If you can get rid of it once, you can get rid of it again if that pain comes back from the same cause.
Mm-hmm.
So there are pains that come back, arthritic pain, for example, the wear and tear of the joints and things like that. And the inflammation of the joints. Mm-hmm. EFT will notch down the pain, but that pain over time, whether it's an hour or a day or 2 days, will start to come back.
Mm-hmm.
What EFT does in that situation, it gives people a little bit of control over their physical pain, over their discomfort. But perhaps even more important than that, it enables them to reduce the pharmaceuticals they're taking, mm-hmm. so that when they really do need to use those pharmaceuticals, they work better. And they have less side effects because you're not taking them all the time.
So with mental health issues like anxiety, stuff like that, how does EFT work with that? Is that what you was on about with the bodily reaction? So it'll learn to quieten that physical reaction to the stresses. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And there is. You talk about the placebo. It's definitely not a placebo, because I can see people believing that it won't work, and I'll tap on them, and it has a change. The only time it definitely doesn't work is if people don't want to do it. If they don't want to do it.
No, I think the key message from all of this is, like we discussed earlier, there is no one size fits all. Like, this stuff could work for someone. So, like, I've always been of the opinion that just try it, because you'd never know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what would put a lot of people off is going along to see a therapist and paying 70 quid for an hour, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially with chronic emotional or physical pain, have tried tons of stuff, have invested time and money on it, and perhaps haven't had the results that they've wanted. But there are solutions out there for most people in some form.
You got to try these things.
Absolutely. And you know, I when I'm teaching EFT, I do have a laugh with it because it is absolutely ridiculous looking.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. What can you do?
But I guess once you've learned it yourself, do it at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do it at the bus stop, but you can do it at home. I mean, the EFT procedure is 12 tapping points and probably takes about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So you notice you have an issue. I have a pain in my shoulder, and you measure it. That's about 7 out of 10. I'm just pretending at the moment that I've got a pain in my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You measure it and you give it the name. How does it feel? Is it a sharp pain? Is it a dull pain? You try to narrow it down.
Mm.
And then you vocalize this as you're focusing on it. So you're tapping and saying, this pain in my shoulder, 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 pain in my shoulder. And then you measure it again.
Mm-hmm.
And people will go, well, it's still a 7. And you try and vary it a bit and see if we can find a different wording for it or whether there's a cause for it. Or they'll say, oh, actually, that's maybe a 3 now. And then you keep working to try and get it as low as possible.
It's mad interesting. It's crazy interesting.
Oh, it's fascinating. And so I learned in 1999, so 21 years. I'd been 4 years as a hypnotherapist. And I had seen great success with people with hypnotherapy. And when EFT, there was colleagues in America that started talking to me about this new thing that heard EFT. And I ordered the videos from the States. When they came out, it's a funny story because when they came across, I realized that I had to buy a new video player because they were American videotapes. Yeah. And it was about maybe 30 hours of video. And I sat and watched this thinking, what a load of bullshit. I can't believe this. And it was way out my comfort zone. It was way out the things that I'd learned. And then I watched them again and I started using EFT in myself and noticing little subtle changes. One of the first things I did was, I don't know if you remember CFAX on television.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm not that young.
So I remember coming into the lounge one day and I didn't have my glasses and thinking, I can't really focus on that. And then thinking, I wonder if EFT would help. And I sort of went to where I could focus and then took a couple of steps back. So it was just slightly blurry. And I tapped for my eyes are out of focus. And I tapped and tapped and tapped for maybe, I guess, 2 minutes. And I could read it. And I thought, that's interesting. And I took another couple of steps back, slightly out of focus, and I tapped again, and I could read it. And I did it again, and for probably, I think maybe a couple of weeks, a couple of months, I forgot to wear my glasses when I was watching the telly. It's just that little bit sharper. Now, what would have happened with EFT was, if I'd done that tapping and it hadn't shifted anything, I would have thought to myself, well, it doesn't work for sharpening up your focus in your eyes. And that's it. It's been 5 minutes, fine. Yeah. But that was my convincer. That was something that I couldn't deny had shifted ever so slightly. Now, I don't wear a strong prescription. I could sit and watch the television or go to the cinema or drive without my glasses, but I'd start to get a tiny little bit of a buzz headache just because things are slightly out of focus. I can legally drive without my glasses. That's how my prescription is that.
I'm the same.
Yeah. So it's not a big issue, but it made me think, that's really, really interesting because I couldn't deny that things were slightly out of focus and then 30 seconds later, they were in focus. And that might work with other people and it might not. It depends how good or how bad their eyes are.
That was your convincer?
That was my convincer, yeah.
Madness.
It is madness.
Out of all the things that you do, like the hypnotherapy, the meditation, which would you say is the best thing that people should go to if they're struggling with like anxiety? Because I guess that's who's watching this. What would be your chosen recommendation as a tool?
I would learn relaxation techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Gentle, simple, repetitive, easy to remember relaxation techniques. I would listen. Well, this is going to sound like a sales pitch, but it's not going to be, because I'm going to offer you them for nothing. But so when you're a hypnotherapist and someone comes in to see you, especially a female, I would ask every single person over the years, have you had any relaxation training at all? Have you done meditation? Have you done the sleepy bit at the end of yoga? It's called Shavasana. Have you done any eyes closed work? And probably 95, 96% of people never had any experience of doing anything. And that's probably changed a little, but probably not much. So the techniques that a hypnotherapist uses are so slow and so gentle and so easy that it guides the vast majority of people into trance. But that is, you can call that meditation and you can call it deep relaxation. Despite the fact that the majority of the time it's a female and a male, which sets up a sort of, what's this strange man going to do sort of idea.
Yeah.
Number two, they're dealing with hypnosis, and most people have this Hollywood version of hypnosis that
going to be dancing controlled like a chicken.
Yeah, and of course that can't happen, really. It definitely doesn't happen in hypnotherapy. And thirdly, they're trying to do something, or they're doing something that they've never done before. And yet with these techniques, these slow techniques, you can guide someone from eyes open, awake, to eyes closed, deep relaxation. And you can do that in about 12 to 15 minutes. Almost 99% of the time. So the techniques that hypnotherapists use are based on things like a body scan, which is like a mindfulness technique. Deeper diaphragmatic breathing, which is, diaphragmatic breathing is at the core of all the Eastern practices like Qigong and Tai Chi and meditation and yoga. A technique called the countdown technique, which is linking a thought process of counting down and timing it as you breathe out. That's a magnificently powerful technique. And then things like visualization, or as I like to call it, sensualization, because it uses all the senses. And taking people to a place or a point or a memory or an imagination of a really wonderful, relaxed experience that they've had. And when you can combine all of those, people then can start to build what's called the relaxation response. And slowly, over time, retrain their body to get back into that state. So that brings me around to some recordings. I have got 4 recordings, MP3s and they're simply called How to Relax. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they just take people through those techniques, just gently, slowly, easily taking people from eyes open awake to eyes closed relaxed. And that comes with a little manual, and I'd be absolutely delighted to offer them to your listeners. I don't even want email addresses, I'll just pass them on. And if that is something that they start using and they go, yeah, that felt a wee bit better. That felt as if I could feel it and I'm not trying to do it. And it's so gentle. Then by using those recordings on an ongoing basis, you start to teach your body just how to switch off. It might make a 1% of difference.
It's better than zero.
And it might make 100% of difference over time. Yeah.
Okay, we'll figure that out. We'll put some links.
We'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way to get them to you.
Yeah. I haven't got much more to ask you. There was one quote on your website that I really liked. We'll go over that. It was that the techniques you use don't stop you from getting stressed. That'd be impossible. What they do is allow you to recognize it and deal with it quicker than most people. That's the point That's what I love about your message. This is not gonna eliminate stress, anxiety. It's not gonna
No.
stop panic attacks, but it will help you on your journey. That's the message.
Yeah, I've been doing this a long time, and I get stressed.
Exactly.
I get depressed. I get
You
anxious.
can't
I get
stop it.
pissed off.
I mean, how stressed
No.
are everybody right now with what's going on? Now would be a good time to listen to those MP3s.
What a good thought, Billy.
Yeah.
But I get stressed. I get pissed off. I get angry. But the tools that I have learned and used over the years make the journey through that quicker.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the best thing I can say about it. It's like diaphragmatic breathing, the ability to notice and slow down your breathing. That's what's called a grounding technique. It brings you back. It takes you from here to the belly.
Mm-hmm.
When we're here in this little monkey mind that we have, and we're panicking and we're stressed, we can't see the wood for the trees. We just can't. The mind is just making everything up, and it's affecting the body.
Yep.
And when you're like that, you're all here, and you've got no real connection with the computer, the big biocomputer that we have. And by learning relaxation techniques, well, let me say this first. When we have a panic attack or an anxiety attack, it feels hellish when you're in it. But they all end. Mm-hmm. At some point, they end. And when we're in the middle of something, we can't see solutions. We can't access our resources. We can't access our creativity and our intuition. We go through a process and it ends. And at that point we go, okay, so now I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I can breathe a bit more, and I'll go and sort this out, and I'll phone these people and apologise, and I'll blah, 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 and this, that, next thing. So what these techniques do is it just makes that quicker. It gets quicker to get in touch with your resources. Mm-hmm. And there's no rights or wrongs with this. People, it's like I've worked with people over the years, and they'll say, I couldn't do this because I have a migraine, or I had a migraine earlier on today. And then they describe the symptoms, and you think to yourself, I ain't a migraine. Mm. I've worked with people with migraines, and I know exactly what they're going through. And I guess it's the same with things like anxiety and panic attacks. Someone will say to you, I'm sure they've done it, oh, I have anxiety, and they describe it, and you think, well, that's not how I feel. Mm. I feel 10 times worse than that. Mm. But I think what we've all got to remember is that whatever people are going through is relevant for them at the time. They're feeling is how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm. It's real to them.
It's real to them. And that's why some people can say, I had a panic attack and 5 minutes later I felt better. Mm-hmm. And you go, really? But that's their world. That's how they felt.
Happens. Yeah.
It happens. But some people have a panic attack and it just, mm-hmm. It's just onward. It goes on and on and on and on, and it affects their life in every way for minutes, hours, and sometimes longer. Mm-hmm. And each one is relevant. So that's why you can get someone who will listen to a relaxation or a meditation, and it changes everything really quickly. And that's why some people just need to take it on an ongoing basis and let it slowly notch away. Mm-hmm. Slowly. One of the things I joke about with the MP3s and the apps, because I've got a ton of apps, one of the things I'll say to folk is, there are no addictive properties. You cannot get addicted to meditation. Mm-hmm. The word thing. There are no calories. There's no nothing that you can do that's wrong with it apart from stop using it. So even if you get a tiny little glimmer of light and you think, I feel a bit better, then you can continue using it and know that there's no side effects.
Yeah. No negative.
And I think that's a nice thing.
Definitely.
But you've got to get the right technique and the right voice. And I'm very glad that I've been really successful with what I do in my recordings, and they're really well loved. But I also know that folk don't like my accent. Some people don't, and some people love the American accent, and some folk prefer English, and some prefer Australian, and that's the way it is. But I'll pass on those recordings, and if people like them, they can like them, and you can.
And they can
always reach out.
Find more of your stuff on the app stores. Just type in your name. That's what I did. Type in Andrew Johnson, and there's a big list of stuff there. And also,
So I've got maybe. Sorry, Billy.
Go on, carry on.
Well, I was going to say, there's a lot of recordings on the App Store, which is great. The apps allow you to switch your phone off at night, so the screen's off, and just listen to the app. And when it stops, it stops. I've got a bunch, about 120 MP3s on one of my sites, and I've got them all. When this whole crappiness started with Corona, I dropped the price by 50% just to say, go grab them. Which means that the deep sleep recording, well, actually, I'll talk about that in a second, but all the recordings are generally about £2 now, which for a 30-minute MP3 is pretty damn good. On my website, I've got my 3 most popular recordings: Deep Sleep, Stress Free, and Positivity, completely free.
AndrewJohnson.co.uk.
AndrewJohnson.co.uk, and you can just download it. As I said, I was speaking to one of my mentors earlier on this week, and I said, I want to be able to give stuff away but not be seen to be profiteering on it. Because, well, people are. And he said, just don't even ask for email addresses. Just put them on so people can download them and say to them you can share it. So Deep Sleep, Positivity, and Stress Free will tick 3 big boxes for most folk. Help you sleep, reduce tension and anxiety a bit, and build positivity. And if they work for you, wonderful. You can have them with my blessing and pass them on. There's also an app called Insight Timer, which is free, and I've got maybe 20 or 30 different recordings on that. Some of it's behind a little paid paywall for some of the longer recordings, but there's about 5,000 meditation experts on that. So it's a great tool. And a lot of my recordings are also on Apple Music, Google Music, Amazon Play. So they're all over the place.
Access to all. I like it.
Access to all, yeah.
And obviously you've got your social medias.
Sorry?
You got your social medias, your Facebook
I got my
Lives.
Social media. Yeah, good. Facebook Lives. Yeah. It may sound that I'm busy, but I'm not really.
Same here.
I am I'm busy at the moment, actually.
Just chatting to random people every week. That's what I'm doing.
Chatting to strange people and having a good laugh and sharing. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely.
We're living in interesting times, and I think, I do have a hope and a dream that when this all blows over, that we'll live in a bit more of a caring society. I was thinking that myself last night. I was thinking this could have a big impact on the way people live their lives when it's all over. I say when. So. I don't say if it ever ends. I say when it ends. Yeah. Because it will. Yeah. It will. There's no doubt. It's just how long it's going to take and how much we can look out for one another and share and help one another. And I'm in the very fortunate position to have a digital business and have, so I like to think that I'm in a position now to give back and just give a ton of stuff away. Yeah, perfect. That's about it from the breakdown. Thank you very much, Billy. Thank you for joining me, man. It's been good. I'll put links in the description, and we'll sort out the MP3s. Not MP4, MP3. Yeah, I know. And we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes, and it seems like 5 minutes, so that's a great sign. That's a good thing. So any future guests, it's not that bad. It ain't that bad. I'm more nervous than everyone else. You make people feel really at ease, Billy, so thanks so much. You're the second person that said that, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, you're doing a good job, man. Cheers, man. Thank you. All right.